Today, we're going to talk about a story that is, well, it's more than just a crime. It's a really stark look at a profound failure of humanity. It's a difficult story for sure, but it's an important one to understand. This is The Explainer on the 44-Day Nightmare of Junko Furuta. So where does a story like this even begin? Well, oddly enough, it starts not with the victim, but with the perpetrators, and a confession that would uncover a crime far, far worse than the one police were even looking into. Alright, so picture this. It's Koto, Tokyo, in January of 1989. Police have a couple of young men in custody for a double murder. The interrogation is intense, as you can imagine, but it's about to take a turn that no one in that room could have possibly expected. One of the suspects, a teenager named Hiroshi Miyano, he starts to crack under the pressure. He thinks the police already know everything, so he decides to confess, but not to the crime they're asking him about. No, he confesses to something else entirely. Something, if you can believe it, even worse. He tells the police he's gotten rid of a body, that he's hidden it in a construction drum out in a wooded area nearby. The police, of course, immediately follow up on this lead, and what they found, it would send shockwaves through Japan and really the entire world. So they find the drum exactly where he said it would be, and it's filled with concrete, a really crude attempt to hide whatever was inside forever. But here's the thing, strands of hair were visible, caught on the outside. The police knew right away they'd found a victim. The big question was, who was she? And what in the world happened to her? You know, before she was a victim, she was a person with a life, with a future. And to really understand the weight of this tragedy, we first have to understand who was stolen away. Her name was Junko Furuta, and by all accounts, she was a bright, hardworking high school student from a really loving family. She was acing her studies, already had job offers lined up for after graduation, just a kind girl who stayed out of trouble. But tragically, she had caught the unwanted attention of a classmate, Hiroshi Miyano, the very same boy now in police custody. She rejected him, and his refusal to take no for an answer, well, that's what set this whole horrific chain of events into motion. And this is where things take a truly dark turn. We're gonna see how a simple high school rejection escalated into one of the most brutal and prolonged crimes in modern history. So it's November 25th, 1988. Junko is riding her bike home from her part-time job. All of a sudden, another kid on a motorcycle knocks her over. Just as he starts harassing her, who shows up? Hiroshi Miyano. It looks like he just happens to be there, and he scares the other guy off. But this was no coincidence. It was a trap, a planned ambush. Miyano plays the hero, offers Junko a ride home. And why wouldn't she trust her classmate? She accepted. And that was the last decision she ever made as a free person. 2 days later, Junko's parents are, of course, frantic. They'd filed a missing persons report, then they get a phone call. It's Junko, and she's forced to tell them she's just run away with friends and that they should stop looking for her. They believed their daughter, so they withdrew the report. Just like that, her last lifeline was gone. 44 days. That's how long Junko Furuta was held captive. And for every single one of those 44 days, she was subjected to constant, escalating, and just unimaginable torture by Miyano and 3 of his friends. At first, they kept her in a warehouse, but then, and get this, they moved her to the home of one of her captors. Chillingly, the boy's parents were in the house. They knew a girl was being held captive, they saw her, but they were so terrified of their own son and his gang that they did absolutely nothing. Dozens of other gang members were invited over to assault her. On the 20th day, in an act of just unbelievable courage, a barely conscious Junko managed to get to a phone to call for help, but she was caught before the call could connect. The punishment for that was severe. Despite everything, they could not break her spirit. And it was that incredible resilience, believe it or not, that led to the final fatal assault. So now we arrive at day 44. It's January 4th, 1989. After weeks and weeks of this relentless torture, Junko was barely alive. Her body was completely broken. The 4 boys, drunk and bored, decided they wanted to play a game of mahjong. It's a complex game, requires a lot of skill and strategy, and they forced Junko, in her condition, to play against them. And what happened? She won. Physically broken, she defeated all 4 of them. Her mind was still fighting, her spirit was still there.
That victory, it sent the boys into a final, horrific rage. They just could not stand that the girl they had tried so hard to completely break had outsmarted them. They launched a final 2-hour assault, and sometime during that attack, Junko Furuta died. Panicked, they put her body into an oil drum, filled it with wet concrete, and dumped it, which, of course, brings us right back to the discovery we started with. When the details of those 44 days finally came out, the public outcry was immense. But the legal process that followed, well, that would only create more questions and a whole lot more outrage. The central complication in all of this was that under Japanese law at the time, Hiroshi Miyano and his 3 main accomplices were all minors. This meant their identities were legally protected from the public, and it put a strict cap on the sentences they could possibly receive.
So in July 1990, the sentences were announced. Miyano, the ringleader, got 17 years. The others got somewhere between 5 and 9 years. And the parents, in whose home all of this happened, they were never even charged. For a crime of this magnitude, the public was just floored. They saw these as incomprehensibly light sentences.
And you know, what's really telling is that even the presiding judge reportedly expressed his own personal dissatisfaction. He basically said his hands were tied by the laws that govern juvenile offenders. This case just threw a harsh spotlight on the conflict between the letter of the law and the public's demand for justice. And the final fact of this case is, well, it's perhaps the most unsettling. All 4 of the main perpetrators served their time. They've all since been released. Today, they are living as free men.
You know, this case forces us to confront an incredibly difficult question, one that legal systems all over the world still grapple with. Where do we draw the line between childhood and accountability? That's the unresolved legacy of Junko Furuta's 44-day nightmare.